The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board is continuing its work, to determine what caused a small plane crash in Nashville.
Investigators say that the flight originated from the Milton area. All 5 people who were killed were Canadian, 2 adults and 3 children. And for more on this, we're joined by CTV aviation specialist, Phil Dirty.
Phil, thanks so much for joining us. The details here are just so chilling. Traffic cam footage shows that plane bursting into flames. The pilot told air traffic controllers his engine shut down. What could have happened here?
Well, good afternoon, Lena and Bakari. The pilot reported about 1,600 feet above the ground that his engine had actually stopped running. So we're not exactly sure what caused the engine to quit, whether it was a mechanical failure of the engine itself, fuel problem. We're not exactly sure. The FAA will be digging into it. They'll be taking the engine apart to see actually what went wrong with it.
Yeah, and the aircraft, as we can see from our footage, narrowly missed oncoming vehicles on Interstate 40. We're talking about a busy highway. This could have been even worse, Phil.
Very much so. It's a real tragedy, and you know I can only imagine what was going on in the cockpit of the aircraft. Being only 1,600 feet off the ground and your engine fails, that leaves you about a minute and a half to decide where you're going to land the aircraft. You want to make sure that you don't hit any buildings. You want to have a safe place to land. Whether he was trying to shoot for the highway, we're not exactly sure, but it must have been very terrifying.
Absolutely. Authorities on both sides of the border, they're trying to determine what happened. How long do you think before they come up with some answers?
Well, they'll do a preliminary investigation and report. Like I said, they'll be taking everything off to a warehouse, be taking the engine apart, and they should have a good idea of what happened with the engine in very short order.
You mentioned engine fails. Pilot has less than a minute and a half to figure out where to land, and we could hear the pilot telling air traffic controllers he didn't know where to go. How challenging would that be with time running out like that?
Well, very much so. Like he was about 5 kilometers from the end of the runways, and so he didn't have enough to glide. So the thing is when your engine quits, you have what's called a forced landing. You have to land the aircraft, and you have to land the aircraft now. When you're on a regular approach into under power to an airport, your glide slope is about 700 feet per minute. So you can calculate that. If he was going a little bit steeper than that to try to keep up his airspeed, right, he probably had a minute and a half to 2 minutes to decide where to put that aircraft down. Split decision right on the spot.
Oh, incredibly difficult and so tragic. What can you tell us about this single-engine aircraft, Phil? Any history of problems?
Well, the Piper P-32 has several versions of the aircraft. Doing some research, there's only 3 real significant issues with the aircraft, and the most significant was the crash of JFK Jr. in 1979. He was flying a Saratoga, which was another version of this airplane. But like I said, there's only been 3 reports of accidents with this aircraft.
Okay, CTV's aviation expert, Phil Dirty. Always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for your analysis this afternoon.
Great. Thanks for having me.